Morning everybody. Well, here we are, back in the barn, and on the bench today is the ZZR1100. So what are we doing? Well, in about a week's time we're going to go and see the suspension doctor, and he's going to set this beastie up for my weight and the way I ride, because it doesn't feel right, and I'm not a suspension man. I'll do many things, but you know, this is an art, setting something like this up. So before we go and see the man, we're going to take the front fork springs out, which are the original ones. Okay, so we are definitely talking 25 years, 26 years of work, and we're going to put in some progressive springs. Check the oil, the fluid, suspension fluid, get all that wrapped up. That should make a difference. And the next thing we're going to do is he's going to want to have a bit of work on the rear suspension here. So I need to make sure that the adjusters are good. I'm going to give it a clean down in this area so he can get his hands in there and not feel like I'm taking the piss. And generally get everything freed off. And to do that, if I remember rightly on these bikes, you need to take the seat off, you need to take the tank off, and I think you need to remove the battery box, and then you can get to the rear suspension. It's not an easy job. Maybe you can just do it with the tank off. Anyway, we'll see how that goes. So that's the job for today. Quite a nice one. Let's crack on. There you go, it's all the bits removed. Now it's a case of finding where I've put the new springs and fitting them. Shorter coils to the top. Well, that's the first job done. progressive fork springs are in. Now some of you might have noticed I didn't change the fork fluid. I have only recently overhauled those front forks, new seals, new sliders, and I know the fork level was correct at the time of building. So really it was just a case of dropping the springs in. I've lost very little fluid taking the springs out because they don't actually sit in the fluid. The damping's further down the leg, and that's why the springs are so short on these bikes. So all in all, really good repair. Next thing is to be able to get to the rear adjuster so that we can make adjustments. One thing I did do before I rebuilt these forks, which you didn't see, is the guy who had this bike used to take his partner on the back, so the front forks had been set quite hard. And I think that was some of the problem I was having, is it was quite a thud on the front end. It wasn't absorbing the shock, it was transferring it through to me. So I've backed off some of the preload and I've set it halfway. So when the guy comes to do all the settings, it should be pretty easy for him. Okay, let's crack on the rear end. Right, so rib shocker. If I remember rightly, what I have to do, undo those two bolts, undo these two bolts, disconnect the fuel pipe, and then I can lift the tank out, and then at least I'll be able to see if I'm right in what I'm thinking. So the battery sits here, pretty much right over the rear shocker. Just so I don't break it, take the key out. you do me a favour, Alan?
Yeah.
Could you just lift the back end of the tank up? I need to unplug some electrics. It's just a bit awkward.
Do you want me to lift?
Just the back end of the tank up, you can pivot it on. It is heavy, it's full of fuel. But somewhere around here, yeah, is a plug. That's it. Okay. Yep. Yeah, and I'll pull that with everything off. Where am I going to put this? That's what I was scared of, folks. Little bit unhappy, all that. So, you're now looking at what's left of the ZZR1100. We've had a bit of a move round. I needed the ramp for the front forks, I don't for the rear suspension. So the FJ has finally got its place of honour, where it'll be for a little bit longer whilst we get all that sorted out. Anyway, back to the ZZR. So, what I've done here, there is the rear shocker, nestling in the swinging arm, and that big hole that you're looking through right now was where the battery box was. And what I've done is I've cut the battery box, which was damaged, out of the rear mudguard section. I have purchased a new rear mudguard, and what I'm going to do is make up a metal plate that will sit under this bit of plastic. That'll be fastened to the rear mudguard, and there'll be a couple of riv nuts in there, or clue fix, whatever you call them. And then I'll cut the battery box off the new mudguard and make it as a bolt-in, bolt-out unit. Unfortunately, stud snapped off. This is what happens if you put steel into aluminium and you don't use a corrosion inhibitor. And as you can see, the shocker's looking a little bit, let's get right in there. I don't think it's too bad. It works. So I'm going to clean all that up and then see if I can free it. I think there's been a lot of preload put on it. Again, for 2-up work, I don't need to have that much preload on. So yeah, get this freed up and take some of that preload off, drill out that stud, finish off trimming out the bits of plastic out the mudguard I'm not going to need, and then give this a damn good clean, because this is pretty hacky. And looking at that fuel filter, definitely going to put on a genuine Kawasaki fuel filter. I'll get that ordered tonight and change that. Yeah, needs a little bit of cleanup, just a little bit of cleanup. So that's where we are at the moment. But of course it does mean quite a strip down. But when that battery box is done, I'll be able to do maintenance a hell of a lot easier. Yeah, I think that shocker's going to be just fine. Swinging arm, as you can see, has lost some of the coating. At some time, all of this rear end can come off. I want to have a go at home anodizing, but I think I'll spray it actually, this rear swinging arm, and that will give me a chance to get it all stripped off, clean all the linkages up, check them, grease them, fit them back, make sure everything's good. So there you go. What a nightmare of a job that's been. And this is the damage and repair that was done to the battery box. You can see there's been some fixings done there, some plastic welding. Obviously I've cut this out, so all of the cuts are mine, but that's pretty much where it was fastened back on, and that isn't me. So I don't know what's happened to this. You can see some repair in there, but it's had a rough life, poor thing. Anyway, as I say, the detachable battery box will make a lot more sense. There you go, folks, bit more for you.